The morning sun barely touched the cracked pavement of Riverside Avenue when Nora stepped out of her basement apartment. Her shoes, worn thin at the soles, made soft sounds against the concrete. She carried a paper bag, grease already showing through from the warm bagel and coffee inside. Most people walked past the bench near the subway entrance. They pretended not to see the old man sitting there, his milky eyes staring at nothing, his white cane resting against his knee. But Nora saw him. She had seen him every morning for 3 years. The old man's name was Vincent, though it took Nora 2 weeks to learn it. He never asked for anything, never held out a cup or a sign. He just sat there, day after day, wearing the same gray jacket that had seen better decades. His face carried deep lines, and his hands shook slightly even when they weren't moving. Nora approached him the way she always did, gently, so she wouldn't startle him. "Good morning, Vincent," she said softly. His head turned toward her voice. A slow smile spread across his weathered face. "Is that you, Nora?" "It's me," she replied, sitting beside him. She placed the warm bagel in his hands. "Sesame seed today. Your favorite." Vincent's fingers explored the bag carefully. "You shouldn't keep doing this," he said, but there was no real protest in his voice. "You work too hard for your money." Nora worked as a house cleaner, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. She cleaned offices downtown, scrubbed toilets in fancy apartments, and mopped floors in buildings she could never afford to live in. Her bank account rarely held more than $200. But every morning she bought Vincent breakfast. She told herself it was just a bagel and coffee. She told herself it wasn't much, but it was everything she could spare. "We all need somebody," Nora said simply. "If you believe a little kindness can change a life, stay with me, because what happens next is unbelievable." They sat in silence for a while. Cars rushed past. People hurried toward the subway entrance, their faces buried in phones. Nobody looked at the woman and the blind man sharing breakfast on a bench. Nobody cared. Vincent finished eating slowly, savoring every bite. When he was done, he folded the paper bag carefully and tucked it into his pocket. "You're a good soul, Nora," Vincent said quietly. "The world needs more people like you." Nora smiled, though he couldn't see it. "I'm just doing what anyone should do." Vincent shook his head. "But most people don't." 3 years. That's how long this routine had continued. Through summer heat and winter cold. Through rain and snow. Nora never missed a day unless she was sick, and even then, she felt guilty. She knew so little about Vincent. He never talked about his past. Never mentioned family or friends. Never explained how he ended up on that bench. And Nora never pushed. Some stories, she understood, were too heavy to share with strangers. Even kind strangers. That afternoon, Nora cleaned the penthouse apartment of Mrs. Whitmore, a wealthy widow who complained about dust Nora couldn't see and stains that didn't exist. The apartment overlooked Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a postcard. Nora scrubbed the kitchen counters while Mrs. Whitmore talked on the phone in the next room, her voice sharp with irritation. "I don't care what the contractor says," Mrs. Whitmore snapped. "I want it done by Friday." Nora kept her head down and worked. When she finished, Mrs. Whitmore handed her $70 in cash, $10 less than they'd agreed upon. Nora noticed but said nothing. She couldn't afford to lose clients. She took the money, thanked Mrs. Whitmore, and left. Outside, the city buzzed with life. People in expensive suits rushed past her. Yellow cabs honked. Somewhere a saxophone played jazz. Nora walked to the subway, her back aching, her hands raw from chemicals. But tomorrow morning, she would wake up early. She would stop at the corner deli. She would buy a bagel and coffee. And she would sit with Vincent because that's what good people did. The next morning arrived like all the others. Nora left her apartment before dawn. The deli owner, Mr. Park, already had her order ready. He never asked questions. He just smiled and handed her the paper bag. Nora walked the 4 blocks to Vincent's bench. But when she arrived, Vincent wasn't alone. A man stood beside him, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive navy suit that probably cost more than Nora's entire wardrobe. His shoes gleamed, His watch caught the morning light. He looked completely out of place on Riverside Avenue. Vincent sat on the bench, his face turned upward, listening as the man spoke in a low, urgent voice. Nora hesitated. She didn't want to interrupt. But Vincent heard her footsteps. His head turned. "Nora?" he called out. The man in the suit turned sharply. His eyes, a striking green, locked onto Nora. He studied her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Nora held up the paper bag awkwardly. "I brought breakfast," she said. Vincent's face broke into a smile. "She brings me breakfast every morning," he told the man. "For 3 years now. Never misses." The man's expression changed. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. He stepped toward Nora. "You're Nora." Nora nodded slowly. "Yes. Who are you?" The man extended his hand. "My name is Theodore Blackwell. Vincent is my father. Some stories stay with you. We make those kinds. And there's another one coming. Subscribe if you want to be here for it." Nora's breath caught. The paper bag slipped from her fingers. Coffee spilled across the pavement. Vincent's father? Vincent was homeless, blind, alone. How could his son be this man, this wealthy, powerful-looking man who probably lived in one of those penthouses Nora cleaned? Theodore noticed her shock. "I know how this looks," he said quietly. "Can we talk? Please." Nora's mind spun. Vincent stood slowly, his cane tapping the ground. "It's all right, Nora," he said gently. "Theodore has been looking for me. For 3 years." Nora's voice came out sharper than she intended. Theodore's jaw tightened. "Longer than that." They moved to a small diner 2 blocks away. Theodore insisted on paying. They sat in a booth near the back. Vincent slid in beside Nora, his presence somehow comforting. Theodore sat across from them, his expensive suit looking absurd against the cracked vinyl seats. The waitress brought coffee. Nora wrapped her hands around the warm cup and waited. Theodore took a deep breath. "My father suffers from a rare neurological condition," he began. "It affects his vision, his memory, and his sense of orientation. 5 years ago, he walked out of our home during an episode and disappeared." Nora looked at Vincent. "You don't remember?" Vincent's expression turned sad. "I remember fragments, faces without names, rooms without walls. It's like living in a fog." Theodore continued, his voice tight with emotion. "We searched everywhere. Police, private investigators, hospitals. Nothing. We thought," his voice cracked, "we thought he was dead." "How did you find him?" Nora asked. "Surveillance footage," Theodore said. "A friend works in urban development. They installed new cameras along Riverside Avenue last month. When I saw the footage of an elderly blind man sitting on that bench every day, I knew. I just knew it was him." Nora felt tears burning behind her eyes. 3 years. This man had been missing for 5 years, and she'd known him for 3. Why didn't he have identification? Why didn't anyone recognize him? Theodore's face hardened. "Because when my father disappeared, he was a different person. He was a CEO, clean-shaven, expensive suits, surrounded by people. The man on that bench." He looked at Vincent with heartbreak in his eyes. Nobody recognized him because nobody expected to see Theodore Blackwell Sr. living on the streets. Nora's heart nearly stopped. Theodore Blackwell Sr.? She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Blackwell Industries, real estate, technology, billions of dollars. She looked at Vincent, this quiet, gentle man who'd thanked her for a bagel every morning. This was Theodore Blackwell Sr.? Vincent reached over and patted Nora's hand. "I'm still just Vincent," he said softly. "The man who needed your kindness." Theodore leaned forward. "You've been feeding my father every morning for 3 years?" Nora nodded, unable to speak. "You bought him breakfast with your own money? Even though you're—" Theodore paused, choosing his words carefully. "Poor." Nora finished for him. "Yes, even though I'm poor." Theodore's eyes filled with something that looked like respect. "Do you have any idea what that means to me? To my family? Nora shook her head. I wasn't doing it for recognition. I was doing it because it was right. Silence settled over the table. The diner buzzed around them, people eating and talking, unaware that something profound was happening in the back booth. Finally, Theodore spoke again. I want to hire you. Nora blinked. Hire me? As my father's companion, Theodore said. Live-in position. You'd stay at our home, help care for him. He trusts you. That's rare. He hasn't trusted anyone since the conditions started. Nora's mind reeled. I clean houses. I don't know anything about medical care. We have medical staff, Theodore said. What we don't have is someone who sees my father as a person, not a patient. Someone who's proven they care without expecting anything in return. Nora looked at Vincent. What do you want? Vincent smiled. I want my friend to keep bringing me breakfast. If that means living in a big house instead of sitting on a bench, then so be it. That night, Nora lay awake in her basement apartment. The ceiling had water stains. The radiator clanked. Traffic noise filtered through the thin walls. She thought about Theodore's offer. A live-in position meant leaving this place, this neighborhood, this life. It meant entering a world she'd only seen through the windows of the apartments she cleaned. Fear whispered in her ear. What if she didn't belong? What if they realized she wasn't good enough? But then she thought about Vincent, about 3 years of mornings, about the way he smiled when he heard her voice, about how he'd thanked her like breakfast was a gift from heaven. She thought about kindness and how it rarely asked for permission. By morning, she'd made her decision. The Blackwell mansion sat in Connecticut, an hour outside the city. Theodore sent a car for her. Nora climbed into the back seat, clutching a single duffel bag that held everything she owned. The driver, a kind older man named Frank, tried to make small talk, but Nora could barely respond. She pressed her face to the window and watched as the city gave way to suburbs, then to estates with iron gates and rolling lawns. When they pulled through the Blackwell gates, Nora forgot to breathe. The house, no, the mansion, rose before her like something from a movie. White stone, tall columns, windows that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Gardens stretched in every direction. A fountain stood in the circular driveway, water dancing in the light. Nora stepped out of the car slowly. Her worn sneakers felt wrong against the cobblestone. Theodore met her at the door. He'd changed into casual clothes, jeans and a sweater, but he still looked expensive. Welcome, he said. Let me show you around. The inside was even more overwhelming. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art on the walls that Nora recognized from textbooks. Theodore led her through room after room, each more beautiful than the last. Library, music room, dining room with a table that could seat 20. Nora's head spun. Finally, they reached a suite on the second floor. Theodore opened the door. This is yours. Nora stepped inside. The room was bigger than her entire apartment. A 4-poster bed sat against one wall. A sitting area with a fireplace occupied another. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking the gardens. Nora's legs suddenly felt weak. I can't, she whispered. This is too much. Theodore's expression softened. You've been giving my father something priceless for 3 years. This is the least I can do. That evening, Nora had dinner with Vincent and Theodore. They ate in a smaller dining room Theodore called the Breakfast Nook. Though it was bigger than most restaurants Nora had cleaned, Vincent seemed more alert here, more present. He laughed at Theodore's stories. He asked Nora about her day. For the first time, Nora saw glimpses of the man he must have been before the illness took hold. After dinner, Theodore excused himself to take a business call. Nora and Vincent sat in the library. A fire crackled in the fireplace. Vincent's fingers traced the arm of his chair. Are you angry? Nora asked quietly. That Theodore didn't find you sooner? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I used to be, he finally said. When the fog would clear for a moment, I'd feel rage. But anger is exhausting. And Theodore tried. I know he tried. 3 years on that bench, Nora said. Weren't you cold? Weren't you scared? Vincent smiled sadly. Every day. But then you'd show up with breakfast. And I'd remember that kindness still existed. That's what got me through. Nora's eyes burned with tears. I didn't do enough. You did everything, Vincent said firmly. You saw me when I was invisible. Weeks passed. Nora settled into her new life, though it never quite felt real. She woke in a bed softer than clouds. She ate food prepared by a private chef. She wore clothes Theodore insisted on buying, simple things but new and clean. Every morning, she and Vincent had breakfast together. Sometimes on the terrace. Sometimes in the garden. She described the world to him, the flowers, the birds, the way morning light painted everything gold. Vincent listened with his eyes closed, smiling. Theodore was often away, managing the company his father had built. But when he was home, he joined them for meals. Nora began to notice things about him. The way his shoulders relaxed around Vincent. The way he'd laugh at his father's jokes, even the ones that didn't quite make sense anymore. The way he looked at Nora when he thought she wasn't watching. One evening, Theodore found Nora in the library. She was curled up in a chair, reading. He cleared his throat. Can I ask you something? Nora looked up. Of course. Theodore sat in the chair across from her. Why did you do it? Buy breakfast for a homeless man every morning when you could barely afford to feed yourself. Nora closed her book. My mother used to say that we're all just walking each other home, that we're all lost in our own ways. I was walking to work every morning, and there was Vincent, lost in a different way. It felt wrong to just pass by. Theodore's eyes shone with emotion. Most people would have passed by. I'm not most people, Nora said simply. Something shifted between them in that moment. Something unspoken but undeniable. Theodore stood quickly, as if suddenly aware of how close they were sitting. I should let you read, he said, his voice rough. But Nora saw the way his hands trembled slightly. She saw the way he paused at the door, looking back. She saw something she recognized because she felt it too, and it terrified her. The next morning, Vincent was having a bad day. The fog had rolled in thick. He didn't recognize his room. He called for people who weren't there. Nora sat with him, holding his hand, speaking softly until the panic passed. When Theodore came to check on them, he found Nora exhausted but still there, still steady. You should rest, Theodore said. Nora shook her head. He needs me. You can't do this alone, Theodore insisted. The medical staff can help. He doesn't want medical staff right now, Nora said gently. He wants someone who won't give up on him. Theodore knelt beside her chair. You're extraordinary, he whispered. Do you know that? Nora looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw exhaustion in his eyes. This man who ran a billion-dollar company, who managed hundreds of employees, who dealt with crises and decisions every day. He was tired, bone-tired, and afraid of losing his father again. You need rest too, Nora said softly. Theodore laughed bitterly. I can't rest. If I rest, if I stop moving, I'll fall apart. Then fall apart, Nora said. I'll be here to help you up. Theodore stared at her. Then, to Nora's shock, he did exactly what she told him to. He leaned forward, rested his head in his hands, and cried. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook his shoulders. Nora reached out and placed her hand on his back. She didn't say anything. Sometimes kindness was just being present. Vincent's condition stabilized over the following weeks. He had good days and bad days, but Nora learned to navigate both. Theodore spent more time at home, working from the mansion's office. The house staff, initially wary of Nora, began to warm to her. Maria, the head housekeeper, started inviting her to have tea in the kitchen. Frank, the driver, told her stories about Theodore's childhood. One afternoon, Theodore asked Nora to walk with him in the gardens. They strolled past rose bushes and stone benches, the late summer sun warm on their shoulders. Theodore seemed nervous, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. I've been thinking, he said carefully, about hiring a full staff for my father. Nurses, therapists. You'd still be part of his care, but you wouldn't have to carry it all. Nora stopped walking. Are you firing me? What? No. Theodore turned to face her, alarmed. Never. You've done so much. You deserve to have your own life. This is my life, Nora said firmly. Taking care of Vincent. Being here. This is what I choose. Theodore studied her face. Why? You could leave tomorrow. I'd give you money enough to start over anywhere you wanted. Why stay? Nora chose her words carefully. Because 3 years ago, I was walking to a job I hated, living in a place that felt like prison, wondering if my life would ever mean anything. And then I met Vincent, and something changed. Helping him made me feel like I mattered, like I had a purpose. You always mattered, Theodore said quietly. Did I? Nora challenged. To who? Mrs. Whitmore, who underpaid me. The landlord who threatened eviction every month? The world didn't see me, Theodore. I was invisible, just like your father. Theodore stepped closer. I see you now. The air between them suddenly felt charged. Nora's heart hammered in her chest. Theodore's eyes dropped to her lips, then back up. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her cheek gently. I see you, he whispered again. And you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Nora's breath caught. Theodore, I know, he said. I know this is complicated. I know you probably think I'm just grateful or confused, or, are you? Nora interrupted. Theodore smiled. Maybe a little grateful. Definitely not confused. He paused. I've met thousands of people in my life. Powerful people. Successful people. But I've never met anyone like you. Someone who gives without keeping score. Someone who's kind without expecting reward. Nora felt tears prick her eyes. I'm not special. Yes, Theodore said firmly. You are. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious. Nora kissed him back, letting herself feel something she'd never allowed before. Hope. That evening, Vincent was particularly lucid. Over dinner, he told stories about building Blackwell Industries from nothing. About Theodore's mother, who'd passed away 10 years earlier. About the life he'd had before the illness took it away. Theodore and Nora listened, holding hands under the table where Vincent couldn't see. But somehow Nora thought Vincent knew anyway. He had that way about him, seeing things that had nothing to do with eyes. Fall arrived, painting the gardens in shades of gold and crimson. Nora's relationship with Theodore deepened, though they were careful, taking things slowly. They'd spend evenings in the library after Vincent went to bed, talking about everything and nothing. Theodore told her about the pressure of running the company, the weight of expectations. Nora told him about her childhood, growing up with a single mother who'd worked 3 jobs and still found time to volunteer at soup kitchens. That's where you learned it, Theodore said one night. The kindness. Nora nodded. My mother used to say that being poor didn't mean being powerless. That kindness was the most powerful thing we owned. She was right, Theodore said. It brought my father home. It changed my life. One October evening, Theodore asked Nora to dinner, just the two of them at a restaurant in the city. Nora felt nervous as she dressed. She'd grown comfortable at the mansion, but going out felt different. More public, more real. The restaurant was elegant, all soft lighting and quiet conversations. Theodore wore a suit. Nora wore a simple blue dress Theodore had bought her, though she'd protested. They ordered food Nora couldn't pronounce. They drank wine that probably cost more than her old monthly rent. I have something to tell you, Theodore said during dessert. Nora's stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. Theodore smiled. It's not. At least I hope it's not. He took a breath. The board wants me to do a press conference. About my father. About how he was found. Why? Nora asked. Because it's news, Theodore said. Theodore Blackwell Sr., missing for 5 years, found living on the streets. The media will find out eventually. Better to control the narrative. And you want to mention me? Nora realized. Theodore reached across the table and took her hand. I want to tell the truth. That a woman with almost nothing gave my father everything. That kindness saved his life. Nora pulled her hand back. I don't want to be famous. I know, Theodore said gently. But you deserve recognition. I deserve privacy, Nora countered. I deserve to keep living quietly without cameras and questions and people thinking they know my story. Theodore's face fell. I'm sorry. I didn't think. You didn't think that maybe I helped your father because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted attention? Nora's voice rose slightly. Other diners glanced over. You didn't think that some of us help people without needing the whole world to know about it. Theodore looked stricken. Nora, please. I'm not trying to exploit your kindness. I'm trying to honor it. Then honor it by respecting my wishes, Nora said. She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. I need air. She walked out before Theodore could respond. Outside, the city rushed past, indifferent to her turmoil. Nora walked quickly, not sure where she was going. Her phone buzzed. Theodore. She ignored it. After 20 minutes of aimless walking, she found herself at Riverside Avenue. The bench was still there, empty now. Nora sat down exactly where Vincent used to sit and cried. She'd been fooling herself. This life, the mansion, the romance, it wasn't real. She was still the poor housekeeper. Theodore was still the billionaire. Eventually, the fairy tale would end. It always did. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Vincent. Where are you? Theodore is worried. I am worried. Nora wiped her eyes. Vincent. She'd left Vincent. Whatever happened between her and Theodore, Vincent didn't deserve to suffer for it. She texted back. I'm okay. I'll be home soon. Home. She called the mansion home. When had that happened? Nora stood, exhausted, and hailed a cab. The driver barely looked at her. In the back seat, she watched the city give way to suburbs again, darkness settling over everything. When she arrived at the mansion, Theodore was waiting at the door. He looked terrible, his hair disheveled, his tie loosened. Thank God, he breathed. I thought. I'm fine, Nora said quietly. Is Vincent asleep? Theodore nodded. He was worried about you. I'm sorry I worried him, Nora said. She moved to walk past Theodore, but he caught her arm gently. Please, he said. Let's talk. They went to the library. Theodore poured them both whiskey, though Nora rarely drank. They sat in front of the fire, the silence heavy between them. Finally, Theodore spoke. I'm an idiot, he said simply. Nora almost smiled. You're not an idiot. I am, Theodore insisted. You're right. I didn't think about what you wanted. I was so focused on what I wanted, honoring you, thanking you, that I didn't consider how public attention might feel invasive. He turned to face her. No press conference. No media. Your story stays private. Nora felt the tension leave her shoulders. Thank you. But I need you to understand something, Theodore continued. I'm not with you out of gratitude. I'm not with you because you helped my father. I'm with you because you're brilliant and kind, and you make me want to be a better man. Nora's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared that one day you'll realize I don't belong in your world. Theodore set down his glass and knelt in front of her. My world is empty without you in it. Your world, your kindness, your strength. That's the world I want to belong to. Nora cupped his face in her hands. I love you, she whispered. I'm terrified, but I love you. Theodore kissed her softly. I love you too, and I promise. No more surprises without asking you first. That winter, Vincent's condition worsened. The lucid moments became fewer. The fog grew thicker. But even on his worst days, Vincent would calm when Nora held his hand. She read to him, described imaginary scenes, told him stories about breakfast on a bench, though she wasn't sure he remembered anymore. Theodore hired the best neurologists, but they all said the same thing. The condition was degenerative. There was no cure. All they could do was keep Vincent comfortable, keep him loved. Christmas came. The mansion filled with decorations, though the celebrations felt muted. On Christmas Eve, Vincent had a rare moment of clarity. He called Nora and Theodore to his room. He sat in his bed, looking small and frail, but his eyes were bright. I want to tell you something, Vincent said. Both of you. They sat on either side of him. Vincent took Nora's hand in one of his and Theodore's in the other. I'm dying, he said simply. Baba, don't. Theodore started, but Vincent squeezed his hand. I'm dying, he repeated. We all know it. And I'm not afraid. He turned his milky eyes toward where he knew Nora sat. Because of you, I got to die as myself. Not as a homeless man on a bench. Not as a stranger. As Vincent. As a father. As someone who mattered. Nora's tears fell onto their joined hands. You always mattered. I know that now, Vincent said. He turned to Theodore. Take care of her. And let her take care of you. Love doesn't care about bank accounts or social classes. It only cares about the heart. I will, Baba, Theodore promised. Vincent smiled. Good. Now, did someone mention there's ham for Christmas dinner? I'm starving. They laughed through their tears. Vincent passed away 3 days later, peacefully in his sleep. The funeral was small as he'd requested. No media. No spectacle. Just family and a few close friends. Theodore gave the eulogy, his voice breaking as he spoke about the father he'd lost and found and lost again. Nora stood beside him, her hand in his, and thought about benches and bagels and 3 years of mornings. She thought about how a small act of kindness had changed the trajectory of her entire life. After the funeral, people approached her, some of Theodore's friends and business associates. They'd heard the story. Theodore had shared it privately with a few trusted people. They told her she was inspiring, remarkable, a real-life hero. Nora accepted their compliments graciously, but inside, she still saw herself as the woman with worn shoes buying breakfast. Months passed. Spring came, bringing new life to the gardens. Nora found herself walking the grounds one April morning. She'd been thinking about Vincent, about his last words, about the strange journey that had led her here. Theodore found her by the rose bushes. He'd been working in the city more often, trying to keep the company running smoothly. He looked tired but content. I've been thinking, Theodore said, joining her. That sounds dangerous, Nora teased. Theodore smiled. I want to start a foundation, in my father's name, to help the homeless, especially those dealing with mental illness or medical conditions. Nora turned to him. That's beautiful. I want you to run it, Theodore said. Nora blinked. What? You understand, in a way I never could, what it's like to struggle, Theodore explained. You understand kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, day after day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Nora felt overwhelmed. Theodore, I don't have experience running a foundation. You have experience being human, Theodore said. That's more important. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Nora's breath caught. Theodore opened it, revealing a simple but stunning diamond ring. And I was hoping, he continued, his voice shaking slightly, that you'd be willing to do all of it as my wife. Nora stared at the ring, then at Theodore, then back at the ring. Are you serious? Completely, Theodore said. I know it's fast. I know people will talk. I know your life will change in ways you can't predict. But I also know that I want to spend every morning for the rest of my life with you. I want to show up, day after day, the way you showed up for my father. Nora felt tears streaming down her face. She thought about the basement apartment, the worn shoes, the fear of not matching. She thought about how one choice, buying breakfast for a homeless man, had led her here, to this moment, to this man, to this impossible, beautiful life. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Theodore slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. And for a moment, the world felt perfect. They were married that summer in the mansion's gardens. No media, no spectacle, just close friends and people they loved. Nora wore a simple white dress. Theodore wore his father's watch. They exchanged vows under an arbor covered in roses. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Nora thought she felt Vincent's presence, smiling down on them. One morning, almost exactly 4 years after that first day Theodore found his father, Nora stood outside a new shelter Vincent's place had opened in the city. She watched as people lined up for breakfast, and she remembered walking past, remembered sitting on a bench, remembered choosing kindness when it would have been easier to look away. A young woman approached her, wearing a volunteer badge. "Excuse me," the woman said shyly. "Are you Nora Blackwell?" Nora smiled. She still wasn't used to her married name. "I am. I just wanted to say thank you," the woman continued. "I was homeless 2 years ago. This foundation helped me get back on my feet. Now I volunteer here every week because I want to help others the way I was helped." Nora felt her throat tighten with emotion. That's exactly what Vincent would have wanted. The woman smiled and returned to her duties. Nora stood there a moment longer, watching the sun rise over the city. Her phone buzzed. A text from Theodore. "Come home. I'm making breakfast." Home. Nora smiled and headed for her car. As she drove through the city streets, she thought about the circle of kindness, how it rippled outward in ways you could never predict, how a bagel and coffee had turned into a foundation, how seeing someone invisible had made her visible in return, how love could grow in the most unexpected places. When she arrived at the mansion, Theodore met her at the door. He kissed her hello and led her to the kitchen, where he'd prepared a simple breakfast. Bagels, coffee, nothing fancy. Nora laughed. "What?" Theodore asked innocently. "This," Nora said, gesturing at the spread. "It's perfect." They sat together, eating breakfast as morning light filled the kitchen. And somewhere Nora believed Vincent was smiling, because in the end it was not money, not power, not fame, just kindness. Simple, steady, everyday kindness. The kind that costs almost nothing but changes everything. The kind that reminds us we're all connected, all struggling, all trying to find our way home. And the kind that, when given freely and without hesitation, has the power to transform not just one life, but countless lives, rippling forward through time like light breaking through darkness. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.